Hello, I am Patrick Hargett, and I'm here to talk to you about content update signaling and the alert protocol from the STM group. So I'm a Senior Director of Product Management at Adapon, and I chair the STM's Task and Finish group for this content update signaling and alert protocol CUSAP. The Task and Finish group has been made up of members of diverse different organizations, from publishers to institutions, and as well as service providers for content registrations and also vendors. As you see, the committee or the group, the Task and Finish group, has been pretty large with diverse people. And when we started, we addressed a problem statement. The rise of open access is anticipated to result in a more widespread distribution of publications across various platforms, increasing content syndication and the likeliness of identical content hosted on multiple sites. This proliferation poses a risk for some copies remaining outdated, as updates or amendments may not be applied universally, potentially leading researchers to rely on content that is outdated or known to be incorrect or incomplete. So this is the objective, the problem statement that we had to start with. In more concrete realization, a lot of institutional repositories hold content that they have prior to submission to a publisher from the authors, or they may have collected content there that they have access to. And when the version of record is finally published, the updates that might happen to that version of record do not get reflected to that copy that might sit in the institutional repository. So the biggest need that we've seen in this project has been, how do those institutional repositories make sure that copy gets up to date, especially when there's a retraction, an expression of concern, or some sort of correction. So the proposed solution is that publishers to collaborate with other community stakeholders and establish a system that sends alerts to these repositories and others, because also we see that there's other consumers of these updates. So whenever the version of record is changed. And what this turned out to be is the manifestation of the Task and Finish group for CUSAP, this content update signaling and alerting protocol. In early 2024, we interviewed 30 community stakeholders, including universities and subject repositories, COI agencies, and system providers. So this was an early interview process that we did to sort of make sure that our objective and problem statement was actual. The highlights of these interviews showed that these repositories are not receiving updates when the version of record changes. So there was definitely a liking that this CUSAP type solution would fill a gap. An approach to a community collaborative solution was welcome. So that also defined that the definition of that Task and Finish group. Repositories largely use DOIs, but in different ways. COAR, Notify, and Open Air brokers were providers that had a strong position here, but open access is not all of that content. And then there were multiple repository systems that were identified: DSpace, Fedora, ePrints, and others. And also the mention of Chris as a solution that tightly ties into repositories was mentioned, so we looked at that as potentially a source of information analysis. The project identified 3 steps to deliver a solution. So we first defined a metadata package for the update events. What content will institution librarians need, or any other consumer of this update, so that they can actually properly identify the article that has to be updated. Then we prepared requirements for a demonstrator, which is a prototype of a solution that can provide these metadata packages. And now we're at a point where we are working on building a pilot of this demonstrators to test with some repositories. To validate the preparation of the requirements and what it would contain, we launched a survey later in this year. It was open from the 24th of October to the 22nd of November, and we received 27 responses, which are summarized through some of these graphs here. For example, do repositories capture DOIs in their metadata to track the items that they have? So there was generally, yes, DOIs are common. Some had an absolute no, but not necessarily for all content. Do they use a repository system? So we accumulated a little more information. We saw that DSpace was a strong provider here, but there were also some additional repositories that are not listed here. How often are records updated? So how often do these librarians or institutions actually go and check for outdated records, some monthly or less, on continuous basis? There's quite a few irregularly or when requested. So that had a big vote showing that there's not really a process. So unless somebody takes an action, probably those documents are not being updated. And then some had more structured approaches for daily, weekly, or and some larger scale. And is there an actual mechanism to check systematically for retractions, errata corregium, and other updates that are provided by the content there? And there is no systematic approach except for very few repository holders. We did also ask whether they currently receive notifications about retractions in a sort of more automated way, such as an email or service integration. 0 here in this answer meant no, 1 being yes. So clearly there's no automated process and no mechanism that really does this systematically. And if this system that receives this type of update is available, so most of them answered no. There's some sort of other COAR Notify is a provider for a few of them, but there was also some very specific reasons why these organizations would use that system. Would you expect to receive the alerts directly or via an intermediary system if we were to build this CUSAP? So most, and this is where we asked about Chris, if that was a mechanism that they would look at for the source of this. So most of the institutions kind of responded a direct update would be the best here. And then assuming that we would make this potentially a free service, this was a question, not necessarily sure if this will be a free service, but we would receive notifications as such. Would this be useful? And clearly this is there's a need here for this to be a service provided. Lastly, what kind of information would you like to receive in these notifications, whether it should be something robust, deep, with a lot of data, or minimal information, or an alert not including only bibliographic metadata records that are subject to the update. So the more robust approach, meaning that we would provide the update, the reference to the original article, potentially the reference to the article that might have been updated. Furthermore, the format of delivery, if there's such a service, email or machine readable, seem to be a common balance between the two in terms of preferences. And if there should be a need to receive all the updates or to register certain DOIs and only be notified whether those DOIs have updates. There was a balance between the two. which we opted towards providing all the updates, considering there are about 1,500 per month. That made it something that probably is manageable. So the survey, to summarize what I just presented here, validated the input that we received from the interviews. Some of the repositories preferred this sort of minimal alerts, others with more robust ones, but there was also mixed response regarding how to register for this service, whether they should be registering individual DOIs, for all the alerts and filter it on their side. And also the format was kind of a mixed. Emails are okay, but there was also machine readable emails were two ways of receiving that update. So we went ahead and saw that these interviews in the survey confirmed that CUSAP-like service would be required. Based on this, we have outlined requirements for the demonstrator that we're able to make available sometime in 2025, and also provide all this information that we've accumulated on the CUSAP website that you can find, and I linked at the beginning of this presentation. The demonstrator requirements, to summarize what we have put in there, so it will be a service that will be sourced from updates only from Crossref to start with. We excluded updates that could come from PubMed or other sources or directly from publishers, just for simplicity. By the way, the Crossref updates will include data from Retraction Watch as well, and we will only load into the system the last 15 months, so from the 1st of January 2024, and the 15 months, considering that we might probably have this service up somewhere in the March-April timeframe. The service will send a weekly alert for those who sign up to receive this email. The alert will have a CSV and a JSON file linked to it. There will be a link to a online page which actually filters by the last 7 days from the time of that email that it was sent. And these updates will be sourced from retractions, expressions of concerns, and corrections. This demonstrator is aiming to be as we say, a minimal viable product that will maybe in the future define what a fully functional product would look like, considering we would validate this. There will be also an online tool that will allow somebody to go to a web page, provide information about the date range, or enter a DOI or an ISN, or filter by update type, and then the user will be able to download a CSV or a JSON file for those queries. So there's not only that alert, but you can go to this website and get additional CSVs. So if you want to get some of that back content, or do some specific search for some content that you have that you think needs to be updated. So the plan is to set this up for a few friendly repositories that agree to test the demonstrator. Please let us know if you're interested in testing this out, and we expect this demonstrator to be up for 3 to 4 months, and to collect the information about how the demonstrator performs, if this is a needed solution, and based on that data we will decide whether a full production system will be built for this CUSAP protocol. So that's it. I hope you found this session useful, informative, hopefully fully understand what CUSAP from the STM is about. And if you have any questions or want to discuss further about this, please reach out to me, Patrick Hargett, phargett@adipon.com. Thank you very much.